Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing number 37 of Forgiveness to Love. And and this one is called If I Ruin You, Then I Look Better Than You. And the second subtitle is Jumping the Fence for Easy Access. And so I'm having some technical difficulties, so I thought I'd warn you in advance. So if my I can't find the stand for my phone. So if in fact like the phone tips over or something like that, please bear with me. I'm going to try to hold it, but I did want to get this message out to you today. So anyway, so today I just want to talk to you about how many human beings are clueless, that they actually attempt to assuage their own insecurities, and flaws by tearing down others. And we've all kind of been around people that just try to build themselves up at the expense of others. And that's really a sad commentary, I think, because they're so busy monitoring the competition, that what is it they say? If, you're always looking behind you at the competition, you're not moving forward. And so, you're not really taking care of yourself so you can, run right into a cement wall because you're not paying attention. And so if you're always just looking behind you and worrying about other people, you really aren't moving forward in your life appropriately. And so we've all, kind of been around people like that, and it kind of leaves kind of a creepy feeling in us, and it's kind of like, well, why don't you just get a life and worry about yourself and stop worrying about other people? And if we all did that, can you even imagine how much better the world would be? Really? Because it just shows really those people that do that, their wounds run so deep, and they're so ignorant, really, as to how to even face themselves, actually. And so what they do is they don't. They don't face themselves, right? So they just kind of divert all the attention away from themselves and blame other people. But instead, they'll lash out, right? And so they'll sneak around, and they'll compete, and they'll manipulate, and they try to bring harm to others. And so it's almost like a caged animal, if you think about it, because they wallow in their pent up frustration, right? And so their own personal failures motivate them to go after others and to kind of eat them up as they feed their own ego. And they tell lies, and they tell themselves the lies about other people, right? And so because they have to justify their actions, and and then they actually laugh at the misfortune of others, which I think is really, really pitiful. But we're not here to judge anyone, though. But we do see that when people aren't focused on themselves and they're focused on others, then they're missing so much of life, right? Because they're missing out on any type of self-care, right? Because they're so busy tearing down others. And if they think that that is actually helping themselves, they're sadly mistaken, really. But certainly my experience, has been that, given the dysfunction of members of my family. And it's a tragic commentary, really, on human beings who vibrate at such a low level that actually they squander this lifetime, right? Where there is so much joy and peace and kindness and goodness available. And it's really as close as their fingertips. And yet it's almost as if their fingertips are frostbitten, right? They have frostbitten digits because they miss the gifts that are accessible to everyone that's willing to put in the work. I mean, you have to put in the work, right? We all know that. But it's a matter of taking that first step and warming, warming those fingertips, right? And what I realized is that so many people in my family, well, it wasn't even so many, but maybe it was so many. I just had no idea. I just know the chief culprits of the sibling and the son that wanted to that wanted so much of me and wanted um, financially and materially, as well as personally, things of mine, So if they hadn't, then they wouldn't be so crazed with envy, right? And they wouldn't be so needy and clingy and wanting to thieve everything. I mean, it's kind of like almost like, go get a life. Why are you focused on me? Just focus on yourself. And so and the same goes for what I've seen with some who only serve to kind of reinforce how desperate humanity is as individuals are searching and seeking and questing for a better way of life. And so for the creepos, really, their job is to harass me, right? And their job, if for many of you that have stalkers and creepos and PIs and things like that, especially if you're involved in any type of litigation, because that seems to be a given where we're monitored. But and then if we have any exes or jealous family members or whatever, then there's this fly. Sorry. That like to shadow us and stalk us, and we all know, well, I certainly know that. I know when I was in the litigation, when I had filed a lawsuit against Greyhound for the assault and battery of and the resulting brain injury from the bus door being slammed on my head. I know that when I spoke with my attorney and I said, I just have so many creepos around me. And, I don't know if these are all Greyhound people or what, but I need you to call them and let them know that this is unacceptable. I can't seem to go anywhere without this entourage of people following me. And my attorney actually said, well, are you sure it's Greyhound and not your sister? And I thought, how do you know who my sister is, and how do you know that she's so insane that she would be hiring people to follow me unless she's contacted you or whatever? But anyway, I didn't really feel that he was appropriately representing me, so I dropped that lawsuit anyway. But so there was that lawsuit, and then there was the bogus defamation lawsuit, right, of the ex, and then there was the crazy bankruptcy trial where the ex insisted on putting me through that embarrassment and humiliation. And then every other piece of litigation that was filed against me. It was just really, I know in the last video was the first time I actually used the word conspiracy, because I had been so hesitant as to use it because, when you say something like that, people think, oh, yeah, right. You're just not that important. And why would there be such a conspiracy? But in fact, when the evidence points in that direction, of course, there is, certainly in my case, there has been this gross conspiracy, because everything I tried to do, there was someone who was trying to block it. And so that just doesn't happen in life unless unless there's someone with a lot of clout and someone who is kind of the puppet master pulling the strings. It's still so bizarre. I haven't yet put all the pieces together. And when I do, I'm sure I'll I'll just go, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. But yeah, it was really bizarre. Anyway, it was they're the sibling and the son and the ex who's now passed, but with their whole team of legal experts and attorneys and judges and court personnel that weren't filing things on time, so I would lose certain things. I couldn't appeal things because the appeal wasn't filed in time. I remember that happening in a couple, I think it was the divorce appeal. Um, of the custody ruling or of the financial ruling or something. All of a sudden, I hired an appellate attorney and I paid him a lot of money. And somehow the lawsuit never was, I mean, the appeal was never filed. And I thought, well, that's the craziest thing. And then I received word that it was because the clerk or someone in the courthouse didn't file it on time. And so that's a way that you can lose a lawsuit. You can be barred from appealing something like that. And I thought, oh my God, that's ridiculous. I mean, I was just like trapped in this legal nightmare of over 25 years of things just going wrong left, right, and center. And I just couldn't quite understand it, other than the common denominator was, my ex, my sister, and my son. And it was just too bizarre. But, and then there was the forgery and the perjury and the identity theft and the stealing of my inheritance and the sabotaged food. And then every governmental agency was involved, the Social Security, the IRS, the U.S. Postal Service even. I mean, I didn't get my mail. My mail either wasn't forwarded or it was forwarded to an address that I didn't have, or, the forwarding had expired, or they never got the forwarding or whatever. And that's a felony, to interfere in one's mail. And then the Honda, which was a ticking time bomb, to have arranged with a dealership to provide me with a car that was nothing but trouble and that was a danger. And then, of course, it was, the murder of my mother and my father under very, very suspicious circumstances, and other members of my family that I realized had suspiciously passed, because they were very close to me and they were my support system. And so without them, I was really kind of left isolated and alone. And so there were just too many pieces. And then I've talked about the medical care and the lack of the medical care that I've had, and the sabotaged, not only the sabotaged blood work and imaging and the results from those images, because one report would say one thing, and then another report wouldn't even pick up that issue the next time. And so it was just really one thing after another, truly. And then, of course, all the things that were going wrong happened to be on holidays, on my children's birthday, or on my siblings. The Greyhound trial supposedly was scheduled on my sibling's birthday, and depositions were on my children's birthday, and I mean, just crazy things, So there were doctors, appointments. I couldn't get them until it happened to be on a certain date that was a date like my son's birthday or something like that, where it was, supposedly they wanted it to be on a painful day when I would be missing my children. But it was just so many crazy things, and then the cloning of my phone to hundreds, if not thousands of people, and then the sabotage of my computer, where different people are on it, and there are so many setups. If I go on Wi-Fi, I see, I see like 10 or 12 people. Oh, just as I said that, my computer screen went dark. Yeah, I guess they're listening to everything I say. But yeah, there's a whole list, and it's all Spectrum. And so there are, 12 different Spectrum names, and some of them are Spectrum setups. And it says Spectrum setups, actually. And so the hacking, and there's just, it's just too much, really. And so there, the stalkers, and the PIs that were hired to dig up as much dirt as possible, but usually there wasn't any dirt. And so they can always make up dirt, right? And then who knows what's true and what isn't. And then now with technology being so progressed, there's Photoshop, right? So really, you don't even have to be anywhere near where they say you are, and it can be your face with somebody else's body. And now they have voice manipulation. And so they can actually create an entire conversation, and you haven't said a word. But what they've done is they are able to mimic your voice and have you, it's as if you're speaking, and yet you haven't even said a word. And so they watch you, they go wherever you go, they watch everything, watch your every move, they listen to your every call, they read your every word, they tap into your every thought, actually, as they second guess your next move, right? And so don't get me wrong, there are ethical and honest reporters and journalists and even photographers covering some noteworthy stories. And that's one thing. However, I think you have to be famous for that. However, these creepos that follow me, I think they're just paid by family, and that family wants me gone. And that's why they have access to, I don't know how they have access. I guess it's easy to pick a lock, and then you just get a key made, and then they can come in anytime they want. Anytime I leave, they come in and can sabotage things, when your vitamin bottles are turned upside down, and when things are moved in the refrigerator, and when your clothes are moved, and when, everything is just kind of creepy. And so you realize that someone else has been there. Anyway, they monitor and they survey and they sabotage and they interfere and they interrupt, and they record and they scrutinize and they block and they plan and they plot 24/7 to go where you go, right? And in fact, the friend I'm staying with and I went to a private beach a few days ago, and of course, we saw the creepos that were following us, and then there were other creepos that obviously came into the house while we were gone. And then there's the abuse of animals by my family. I remember when I was in Brazil and I adopted a dog that had been set on fire, actually. His rear end had been set on fire, and so he didn't have any fur on his back end, and it was scarred. And so what they would do is they'd set out tampered food so that this dog would die or be poisoned. And it would cause me a lot of grief. They just didn't care about the dog, but it was really just to hurt me. And so that kind of, when you know that that's going on, you don't even want to go anywhere near an animal. You don't want to fall in love with an animal because you know that that you're putting that dog in danger, or that animal, because some people just have no morals. They have no boundaries. They have no empathy or compassion. They're just full of cruelty. And so I know another dog that I had in Brazil as well. He was kidnapped. Yeah. And a guy refused to give him back. He put him in his yard, And he was obviously a flying monkey. He was obviously paid to steal that dog, you know? And now we've got a flying monkey next door, this woman who leaves her door open so that one of the cats here jumps over and goes right in the door. And who knows if she's feeding him something that isn't good for him, but he hasn't been feeling well for a while. Excuse me. And so, you know, it looks perfectly innocent, right? And under normal circumstances, you would never even imagine anything like that. And yet, for so long, I know that that's true. I know when I had my Clearwater Beach condo, there was a raven that would fly to my balcony, and we would feed it. And then I saw somebody else who was actually feeding it cheese puffs. And so the bird would come to our window and then go and get a cheese puff, and the bird would fly by, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, right, well, go ahead and poison, you know, the bird, because by feeding it cheese puffs, I mean, I don't know if those cheese puffs had anything, if they were laced with anything or what, but just cheese puffs in general. I mean, to give that to a bird is not in its best interest. Certainly, I don't think so. We had really good food for the bird. But anyway, you know, when it all goes back to sibling and son, and so whatever they and their team, you know, think of in order to try to sabotage others, it's pitiful. You know, it really is pitiful. And so, and now, you know, the neighbor next door, I guess, for as long as my friend here has lived here, he said that she leaves the light on and has for the last 2 years in her, like, Florida room or whatever it is. And now sometimes the light is off and there's a couch outside, and there's also a stool that is right up against the fence that divides the two. So if there's a creepo, maybe you know, the sibling and son are paying her so that she will allow a creepo to sleep there, and then he has easy access to this home. So all he has to do is just step up on the stool and jump over the fence, and he can do that. He can sit out on the sofa and just kind of hang out there until we're not here, and then he just jumps right over, or until the door's open and we're somewhere else. Anyway, I don't know. I can't think that way because it's not comfortable for me to have those thoughts. Again, it's about awareness, though, and it's about knowing that you know, we trigger people, and I think we trigger people because we don't think like that, and because we do see the goodness in people, and we show kindness and compassion. And I think that irritates people, actually. I think light really irritates the dark. And I do believe that, actually, as ridiculous as that might sound. One would think that you would be drawn to the light because it's so uplifting and it's positive and it's happy and it's a feel-good thing. But it's not always the case, you know. And so let's see. I know that, and I say this only because when I lived in Oregon, the neighbor there next door, there was the fence, and she actually positioned a chair there, and then she had cement blocks on the other side of the fence. So whoever could jump over would step onto the cement block and then step on the chair and then come right over. And then the other neighbor in the back had a huge ladder that was a 2-story ladder, and they had that propped up against their fence, so someone could just climb up that ladder and jump over the fence from the backside. And then, oh, you won't even believe this, then then the neighbor across the street had this big truck, this construction truck, and he parked it on the grass of my friend's apartment. And on top of this truck were like three big ladders that were laying flat. And it was right under my bedroom window. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this is just too crazy, because if I'm not home, all he has to do is go and get his ladders, prop them up against the wall, and then he goes into my window, through my window. And then he probably can just go through the front door. But this way, if he were going to carry out things or throw things out, or I don't know what he was doing. Anyway, just too creepy, really. But yeah, it was just too obvious, you know. And then in Arizona, before I moved to Oregon, one of the flying monkeys was actually the neighbor. And so he would just use his key and come right in, sometimes when I was home and he didn't even know it. And so, like, what is the matter with these people? And I realized that, you know, my family's behind it all. And so it's really disconcerting to even think that, yeah, people are so strategic and just so mean-spirited and just so ugly and cruel. And it's not like that they're just watching or whatever. I mean, they're sabotaging. They really, yeah, they're really trying to get rid of people. And so this is a malevolent type of energy. This isn't just, oh, I'm stalking you, which is horrible enough, but this is, I'm stalking you because I want to get rid of you, because I'm so crazy that I hate you so much, and so I'm willing to go to jail, right, just to get rid of you. And so unless they think that they have so much political clout that jail won't touch them, I really don't know. Again, you know, this stuff is just above my head. I'm just the messenger here and telling you what I've experienced and what I realize is going on this planet, which is a very sad commentary on our legal system, really, and on those aspects of the government that are here to protect us. Because what I've noticed is that when I've even gone to the police to tell them some of these things, it's almost as if they were waiting for my call. It's almost as if my family had gotten to them first and might have said, oh, well, you know, she's just delusional, right? Because I remember I mentioned in one of the videos that when I was at the Santa Monica Beach and I noticed that there were like 9 big trucks that were surrounding me, and and actually it had been confirmed to me that my sister had hired these trucks and these big muscle men to stalk me. And it was like they were doing these military maneuvers around my truck, or I mean around my van. And I was terrified, you know. And when I notified the Santa Monica police, and I said, I'm just letting you know that I really am quite frightened by the whole thing. And so the officer on the phone said, well, you know, if your sister were to describe you, how would she describe you? And I thought, oh, come on, lady, you must be kidding. How would my sister have anything to do with this, right? And so I said, I really don't know what you're talking about. And so she said, well, how would she describe you? Would she say that you were delusional? And I thought, oh my gosh. So it was almost as if, yes, as if they weren't going to believe me anyway. And then when I had gotten to Clearwater, actually, when I flew into Tampa, actually, and I had checked into a hotel, and right away there was a call from Vietnam, and I thought, Vietnam, now what's the message there? There's a war zone, right? And I thought, oh yeah, well, they're just letting me know that I have entered a war zone by coming to Florida. And I told you I came to Florida because I had a dream from my father, who wanted me to come to Florida to claim my inheritance that had been stolen from me. And so I realized that, and I did. I called the sheriff's department, and so I said, I just, now that I'm here, I just wanted to let you know what I'm experiencing in case anything should happen to me, or in case I should have an issue. I wanted to give you a little background. And right away, the sheriff's deputy said to me, he said, well, um, do you know about Baker acting? And I said, I think so. And Baker acting, for any of you who don't know, it's when you are involuntarily committed for some psychiatric evaluation, and your family can actually initiate that. And I think the grounds are they can say that either you present a threat to yourself, or or they might feel that you present a threat to them. And I know that my sister actually has, I don't know if she filed a report or she complained, but someone told me that she said I parked in front of her car for 8 hours or something, and I was stalking her. And I can assure you, first of all, I don't have a car here. And secondly, no, I'm not interested in stalking her. I am interested in having a meeting with her so that she can, as the executor, she has a duty. She has a fiduciary duty to explain to me what she's done with my assets. And I've not been able to get her to respond to anything. She just plays like she's she just has disappeared, right? And so she hasn't upheld her end of the bargain. And my son has apparently moved to London. Well, he had moved to London years ago, but when I asked him about what was going on with my assets, including my home, he said, don't bother me, just call my attorney. And I thought, wow. Um, so, so you see, they preempt us. Uh, and so they kind of taint the field ahead of time. And even during, um, I remember even during my marriage when I wanted to, when I was ready to get a divorce, and so many times I had gone to see a therapist, and the therapist right away would say, really, well, I want to meet your husband, and we need to talk about this with him. And so on those occasions, he wouldn't show up. He wouldn't come to the therapist. However, he would then make his own appointment at a different therapist. And when I'd go there, after he had already seen the therapist, she would say to me, you understand why this is happening, right? And it's because he wanted to come here first to kind of set the stage and portray you in a negative light. And then you walk in, and I'm supposed to have this preconceived notion that, that you are at fault. And so he felt like he was getting the one leg up on that situation. So we do have to be careful, but at the same time we do have to stand our ground and tell the truth, and just because the creepos do, they know what I do. They see what I see. They hear what I hear. They even get into bed with me, right? Because they're little recording mics that they put under the mattresses, which is really gross. And then they leave little coins, so it looks like a penny, or it looks like a nickel or a dime, and it's on the floor, or it's in your shoe, or it's in the car, or something. And those are actually microphones. And I think you can get them online, actually. And so they just look like regular coins, and you can use them. I mean, you can pick them up, and if you do pick them up, and you can use them as currency. And yet, if you don't pick them up, or you put them, in a drawer, or you carry them in your wallet or whatever, they're microphones. And so, anyway, I think you can buy them at spy shops too. But anyway, this is probably more personal information than anybody wants to know, especially when I tell you that they follow you into the bathroom, right? And they have microphones and cameras in the lights in the bathroom, and they even have them. I have known some people who have told me that they even have them like near the shower heads, or in in the walls there. They're just maybe if there's a crevice, in the tile or in the shower door or something like that. Anyway, yeah, we have our own personal shadowing entourage, right? Documenting everything we do and everywhere we go. I just never really imagined I was of that much interest to anyone. You know what I mean? I'm sure you think that too, because it's just kind of crazy. But anyway, you know, things being put in our food and causing us tumors, and so it's not just a little thing. This is life threatening. They cause us tumors and they create other health issues and they poison us, and it's truly disgusting, and there's no excuse at all. And yet and yet uh we can complain. And then when we go for medical care, the doctors don't. They just say, "Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it." And so we never really understand. We never really learn about what's going on. And then if we should have a medical condition, we don't get any. We don't get the right information about our medical condition so that we can have the appropriate treatment. Or if in fact there is treatment, it may not be appropriate treatment. I know that I needed a crown on a back tooth, on a molar, when I was in California. And in fact, I went to a dentist. I think it was $1,600 or $1,700. I can't even remember. And so he put in he cemented the crown, and then he drilled. And he actually drilled the crown so high that there's no contact between that crown and my lower teeth. And so, I don't really chew on that side because it doesn't connect. And so he said, when I told him that, he said, "Oh, well, you know what? I made a mistake. And so I will, at my own expense, I will order you another crown. So come back in 2 or 3 months and we'll have it here for you." So I did, and he took his hammer and he cracked the cement and removed the crown, and then supposedly put in a new one. And then that one was too low. And he said, "Oh, can you believe this? Can you believe that they sent me another wrong one?" Well, I'm not sure that they sent the wrong one. I think he just put in the one that he had taken out. But anyway, so he said, "Come back in 2 or 3 months and I'll get a new one." And so I did. And then he said, "Oh, can you believe this lab is just so horrible?" Because they sent in another one. And so it was too high, and or too low. Anyway, it was too high. And so, yeah, there was too much of the crown drilled. And so we went through this where he would crack off the crown from the cement that he had put on, and it was just ridiculous. And so he was traumatizing that tooth and that nerve until 4 times. After the fourth time, I never went back. And so, that was obviously a paid setup too. And so things like that are just, it's disgusting, actually. And then, with the food that we eat, sometimes there's a chemical taste to it. And there are just so many blockages to move forward. And this is just, not acceptable. Really. And so many of us have been going through this, and yet we don't even believe it's for real, And so for some of us who so want to connect with others, we have such what is it, a joie de vivre. We have such joy for life. We're so excited about being on this planet at this time in the evolution of the planet and in the awakening of human beings, that we want to connect with people and we want to talk about it and we want to share our experiences and our thoughts and ideas and our communique and our revelations and epiphanies, and we want to help others, and we want to help others move through their own trials and tribulations, because we have so much life and love. of what we're going through. And so, yet the people all of a sudden sometimes become unavailable, right? And so then we think, oh, is it us or did they get the call, right? Because I did hear that there are two men actually that I don't know who pays for them. Maybe um, I don't know if I've just been so flagged by my sister saying I'm such a security risk, or I don't really know what she says, but I do hear that two men have actually gone to see neighbors of where I live. They knock on the door and they start telling them all kinds of lies about me. And then they get them to be like the flying monkeys. And they say, just watch her because I'm sure you care about your neighbor, right? Because he's your friend. And so, she's a really bad influence on them. And so all of a sudden, then the neighbors like watching me like she's a paid monkey. And like here, actually, if I go outside, the man across the street who has a big picture window and he's always looking outside, if I walk outside, he actually comes outside and he starts smoking and pacing and he's watching me. And I'm thinking, wow, people, yeah, people will do anything for money and they don't even know, they have no idea why they're doing it, I'm sure, other than they've just been told crazy things. And so they feel like, oh, yeah, well, we're going to help our neighbor, right? And he's got this crazy woman who's living there for a while. Anyway, it's just to block us from moving forward, I think, because we have so much that we want to do. Life on this planet is short, no matter how long we live. And so there's always something exciting that we can spend our time doing, and helping others and serving others, whether we write, whether we paint, whether we volunteer at different places, whether we volunteer at shelters, whatever it is we do. And so, but it's sometimes I think, oh, well, this is the journey of life, and so we learn to crawl before we can walk, right? And then we walk before we can run. And so before we can run and jump and certainly before we pole vault, right? And so everything is in good time. And so just know that everything is in divine timing, no matter what's going on. And so we'll get into more specifics in number 38 and of the setups and the sabotage and the seduction. And that should be pretty interesting. So anyway, my darlings, stay strong and just remember you are more than the hope of humanity, right? You are the key to its success. And so stay on your path and do the right thing and trust in the energy that created you and why you're here and what you're here to do while you're here. And we'll see how all of these things ultimately align for our success. Because remember, everything that happens doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. So even as I tell you all of these horrible things, just know that we are exposing things. And that's, I think, the most important thing that we're doing, because so many people have experienced this and we couldn't talk about it. I mean, for how many years have we been living this? And yet people are gagged. I certainly had a gag order filed against me. Yes, after I wrote the letter explaining what I had experienced in family court, and at the behest of the FBI, when I had gone there and I said, hey, this is what's happened to me. How can this possibly happen? And they said, well, write it down and share your experience with others. And so I did. And then my ex went and got a gag order. And so I wasn't allowed. This is ridiculous. I wasn't allowed to talk to my children. I wasn't allowed to make contact with any friends. I wasn't allowed to make contact with anybody in business. So that means anyone that has a business, anyone, and all of my friends, were businessmen and their wives, and very influential in Chicago. And so I loved my friends, and I wasn't allowed to contact them, and I wasn't allowed to contact my children. I wasn't allowed. It was no one in the business community, the filial community, which is the philanthropic community. So all the boards that I was on, I couldn't contact any of my co-board members. Also, I couldn't contact anyone in the clergy, or I couldn't go to a church. I couldn't go to a therapist. I couldn't even tell a psychologist what I was going through. I couldn't talk to anyone, really. Otherwise, he was going to come in and have me arrested. And it was it was totally unlawful. But when a judge signs off on that, they can certainly put that in effect. And it's just criminal. And so what people have gone through when people have connections, and people can have others write out these ridiculous orders and these total gags. Yeah, they're orders of protection. And usually they're for a year, and mine never expired. And usually they're for a geographic location, really. And so mine had no geographic location. So even if I were on a different planet, even if I were on Mars, he could put that in effect. I mean, can you even imagine? It had no boundaries. It had no expiration. It had no limitations as to who he could make an argument for that would be in effect for. So, I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous. And so many people have experienced something similar. I don't know that anyone has had something quite so ridiculous. And yet, I think I was supposed to experience something like that so that I can tell you about it, because it's just criminal, truly. And so the whole thing was just nuts. Anyway, we are being made aware of opportunities where we can show love and compassion to others. I think that's the bottom line, because people have to be so very, very wounded in order to partake in this kind of idiocy and this kind of criminality. And so anyway, I think we're all moving forward. And the more we shed light on some of these really dark things that have been going on, the more that we are helping those that are coming up behind us, those that will follow in our footsteps. And so anyway, again, I thank you for being here, and if you would be so kind as to like, share, and subscribe, because maybe someone you know would benefit from hearing some of these videos in this Forgiveness to Love series that I've actually now put on my website, mariahady.com, so you can get the whole list of what this is, 37. So I have 37 videos. There's this fly here. Anyway, so there are 37 videos there, and we're not done yet. And so, please go onto that website. And I'm also doing some pictures on Instagram. I think it's Maria _ Hady. I think that's the account. And so, and then there's mariahady.com. Anyway, I thank you so very much, and I'm so grateful that you're here, and I wish you all the best, and I wish you much, much joy and peace and love and happiness and kindness and generosity and all good things. And I love you. And I'll see you at the next one. Bye.